investigate first? Should it be Dr. Fauci's conflicting takes on COVID-19? Maybe the weaponization of the Department of Justice? Or why Biden decided to put the Taliban in charge of security when they pulled out of Afghanistan? I mean, there's the 5 million illegal immigrants who somehow flooded across our borders in less than 2 years. Kevin, there's a lot of options that I think the GOP can choose to go first. But needless to say, there are going to be a number of investigations into the Biden administration over the next couple of years.
Well, if they call me Tom, I'm going to suggest Merrick Garland and bias with the DOJ, because that's the one that bugs me the most out of all of this. But yeah, a lot of really big investigations are going to take place. First, they got to do this little taking care of business of trying to find a Speaker of the House at noon. Right. Kevin McCarthy's going to take a shot at getting enough votes. Without a Speaker of the House, I don't think they can start any investigation. So I guess one step in front of the other. You'd think they would be so ready that this thing would be a done deal and they'd have this stuff lined up ready to go, but we're going to have to see how it plays out. Joining us now is Roshini Rajkumar, political strategist and host of the podcast, The Crisis Files. Good morning, Roshini. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This is fun. New year, a new House, new oversight committees. As you look at some of these big issues, Tom talked about a few of them. We got Afghanistan withdrawal. You got COVID and Dr. Fauci. You got the Hunter Biden laptop and the big guy, Alejandro Mayorkas and the southern border, Garland and the DOJ. I don't know. You know what's missing is election integrity in 2020. I'm kind of glad to see they're not looking backwards and looking forwards. But Roshini, where do you think they start and where do you think they go?
Well, new year, new investigations, new party, right, in control. I have such mixed feelings about this because, of course, I always want the truth to come out. I want justice to be done. But I also think of every time we hear about an investigation, I'm thinking cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Those are taxpayer dollars that are being spent on that versus some of the things that need to be done in our country for the American people. So I get a little nervous. Now, do I want to just rehash old things? No. When I look at the Biden family and some of the things connected to that investigation, I think there were some things that were either overlooked or suppressed leading into the last election that, hey, maybe now really do need to see the light of day. As far as Merrick Garland, I mean, this is why, and we talked about the January 6th committee, why I was never a big fan of them doing any kind of recommendation to the DOJ is because the DOJ needs to be independent and do its own investigation. So I say all of this being very respectful of the Constitution. The framers set up our system, our democracy, so that each branch would sort of be a checks and balances. We know that term from fifth grade civics. Checks and balances on the other branch. But you just talked about 5 investigations. Who knows what else there is out there that's going to come out? Do we want the checks and balances to be going this overboard? That's the question I hope your listeners are asking, Tom and Kevin.
Well, I consider myself to be pretty fair, and I was pretty critical of this January 6th investigation that the Democrats put on. I felt there was a lot of political bias, that they were going after Donald Trump. So when I watch them look into this Hunter Biden laptop, I'm going to be very intrigued by where this thing goes. If they spend a ton of time looking at Hunter Biden and his drug habits and sex and these things, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. If, on the other hand, they spend the time investigating money that exchanged hands, and if Hunter Biden taking money, or possibly even his father taking money, compromised the president at all, then I will be impressed with where this Congress is going on their oversight. I think that could be a good test to see if this is going to be all politics or if this is going to be a real hunt for the truth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Kevin, that's a really great analysis because the presidency has taken a hit, both with Donald Trump and with Joe Biden. So if there is credibility to payments to Hunter, to payments or some kind of influence to Joe Biden, then if that was cleared up and we actually saw that and credible evidence of that, then maybe that would go a long way in bringing back some of the polish of the presidency of the United States. So I am all for clean investigations and fair results. But I really hope we don't go down salacious lines or sensationalistic lines when it comes to any of the investigations you men are talking about.
Yeah, and I agree with you as well. I think that we should stick to the facts here. But speaking of salacious rhetoric and narratives, when you speak just of the Hunter Biden laptop, and this whole thing is a mess because we had Nancy Pelosi, we had Chuck Schumer, we had the intelligence community, all of them coming out, influencing the media, saying this whole thing is Russia propaganda, it's a hoax, you can't trust it. When we find out, in fact, it was real, isn't that the point when you say, okay, what was really known behind the scenes? We've got to investigate this. I mean, isn't this kind of the point of having some type of oversight within the Congress?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the point. And you're right. Those leaders shouldn't be saying anything. They should let the facts speak for themselves. If they're asked to testify, they should testify under oath and give the truth, right? And give the truth that they feel is the truth, and then move on and let the investigators do their job. So this is really the way they've set up former Congresses have set up this investigation function based upon, really inspired by the checks and balances that the framers created. But sadly, politics always get in the way.
Yeah.
So that is what I think going into this, again, all the articles write about, the GOP, the new majority has all these investigations. They've put out notices who they're going to be drawing testimony from. I don't know that it starts the new year off very well, but let's see. And hopefully they give themselves some time horizons and they don't let these investigations drag on for months and months.
I agree. And I also think that when Congress does investigate, they should be asking the questions that I think a lot of Americans have. And nothing affected Americans and really the world more than COVID-19 did over the past, going on 3 years now. So when Dr. Anthony Fauci and the COVID-19 pandemic, there are questions that people have that's got to be at the top of the list. Just looking at the origins of COVID, that seems to make sense. And, Fauci himself said there's no way this was started in a lab. But then he said it could have. So we still don't know how this thing started. That should be something that hopefully will be at the top priority for this Congress. Do you think it will be?
Well, Tom, you really have some good insight there, because here's the thing about that investigation. That investigation has legs that would move into the future. There were definitely some questionable scientific statements made by politicians and even by doctors. And I would love to see clarification. I'd love to see us really understand what is the origin. Did it start in a lab? Because that's going to help us in the future from maybe preventing something like what happened to the world with COVID-19. So there's really not just the Fauci and COVID in 2020 situation, but it's for generations to come, even long after all of us are dead and gone. So I am all for that investigation. But again, time horizon, have your list of who you're going to talk with, and then let there be a closed case on that.
Put on your political analyst hat for a second. If you're trying to get votes, what works best? Clean investigations and fair results, or salacious investigations and unsubstantiated allegations?
Well, that's a great question, Kevin. I'm always going to go with clean investigation and true results, because that's what lives on for the ages. But if you want the quick vote, and guess what? We're 2 years away from the presidential election. We're not just 2 months away from the midterms. So I would really like the better instincts and the ethics of our current Congress to win out as they are conducting these investigations.
I have a suspicion these might draw out for a couple of years as we get into 2024, if it's going to turn political, which we think it probably will. We appreciate your perspective. As always, Happy New Year. Roshini Rajkumar, legal analyst and host of the Crisis Files podcast. Roshini, great to talk with you. Thank you.